Design and implement business-centric talent management. Yes, we will be talking about business-centric talent management and how to go about by with it. So I'll give you 10 best practices in this presentations. This will be a little bit shorter end presentations altogether. Remember, the five top best of the practice guidelines, which has been mentioned in this particular slide, is all about aligning organization strategic workflow process altogether. For effective strategic workflow business plans and priorities, we need to align for them for for the purpose of recruitment, for the purpose of hiring, for the purpose of selecting newer talent, newer employees. So strategic workforce planning, how do we go process effective strategic workforce planning, henceforth will be mentioned as SWP out here. Number two is future focus. We should always plan for future, adopting a strategic medium to long term forwards looking approach. That is what we should be aspiring for. Proactive, sensitive, responsive to internal and external environment change and trends, provide accurate and reliable, clear talent planning methods, management information system, available core competencies, key skills, critical jobs, and employee segment within the talent gaps thereby. Let us understand the collaborations also. It should be collaborative in nature. It should be well coordinated. It should be partnering effort. HRM should have business partners, line managers, and so on and so forth. Now, what are we looking into is as strategic workforce planning is concerned, it should be in tandem with the organization objective. It should be future oriented. It should be proactive, sensitive to the requirement of the changing environment, and there should be absolutely accurate and reliable, clear view. So we'll talk about the next six best practices for strategic workforce planning. It should be integrated, yes, definitely bundled with other HR value systems, value chain processes. It should generate meaningful business intelligence with shapes, forms, and influences business planning. Should integrate both scientific HRM metrics and predictive analytics. The strategy map thereof should be dynamic in nature, regularly, systematically monitored, reviewed, evaluated, and adapted, and it should yield positive return on investment, as the case might be. Absolute positive. Now we'll talk about the diagnosis part. Now, what are they? On an individual level, what we can go around it, we can diagnose your workforce planning practices against the 10 best practices that I've just mentioned to you. You need to tell me which are the things that we have been processing in the right fashion or not. Next is all about group discussion. Now, you can obviously form a group of your own and probably recommend strategies after identifying the gaps. If you are not doing any of those 10 practices, or if you're doing only two of those 10 practices, why the rest eight has been ignored, why this particular gap that has been done forward to, and probably suggest certain improvement in the recruitment process altogether. Yes, we are trying to understand strategic workforce planning, which is business centric, and we would love to design and implement the same in this particular presentation. So identifying, planning it out on an individual levels, introspecting, and then probably discussing it with your team members to come up with a viable solution as the case might be. Let me tell it to you about the SWP maturity. SWP is strategic workforce planning. Now, how do we go about it? The maturity levels. Remember, SWP, the talent management that we're talking around, is to be respected in terms of business policies, in terms of business centricity, in terms of business operations, the requirement that there is been done. Now, although 92% of the companies have some level of workforce planning, only 21% take a strategic long-term approaches to approach talent demand, talent supply, and action necessary to close the gap between the two. Only 11% of the organization have currently reached the level 3 of maturity. Believe me or not, this is what the studies tells you. Around 10% have reached level 4. In fact, nobody has reached level 5 at all. Level 6 is also there presently. All the best practice companies align workforce planning as an integral part of the business. Financial planning, 67% of the companies at every level conduct workforce planning as and when on needed basis. Only 25% of the workforce planning are effective at helping business leaders forecast revenue, operating budgets. Remember, there are 27% of the workforce planning processes are conducted by recruiting and staffing department. The majority of the workforce planning process are owned by individual business leader. So they are disjointed from recruiting or even from the HRM process per se, as the case might be. So SWP, let us come to it, is the SPADIC process or cycle SPADIC, SPDIC. SPADIC is all about scanning, profiling, analyzing. DIC is of developing, implementing, and controlling. Now, this is strategic workforce planning is to be done with respect to business centricity, keeping the business in mind. We have to do the SPADIC formula of scanning your environment, scanning the potential employees, profiling your employees, profiling the job, analyzing it, who is going to be the best fit for the company, best fit for the role, best fit for the position, and developing certain parameters, the processes for recruitment and implementing the same probably. And this is where comes the controlling part as a last segment to understand the SPADIC process all together. We should, I recommend we should follow the S strategic workforce planning as respect to the SPADIC cycle. We'll talk about all the 6 steps. Remember, scanning is all about strategic analysis, reviewing the current HRM and organizational strategies. We have been talking about the organizational strategies then and there. We have been talking about the strategic choices that the people are going to make around it every now and then, what is to be done. Conduct an environmental scan thereby, identifying workforce trends, challenges thereby. We look into the benchmarking, what has been done in the best of the company in that industry. Preferred scanning tools, which is what? That is strength, weakness, opportunities, and threat, or best analysis, that is political, economical, social, technological, ecological, and legal analysis, as the case might be. So step one is all about scanning about your organization, about your company, about your competitors, about the environment. Yes, this is what scanning or step one goes around it. Let us move to P. SPADIC SP is all about profiling. P is segmenting your company, segmenting your job, segmenting your employees, segmenting everything can be fragmented every now and then probably measure the current supply, forecast the human resource demand, or should I use the word called futuring, as in future from this, from the next quarters, from the next fiscal year, from 2 years from now, or probably 5 years from now, as the case might be. We need to ensure profiling has been done appropriately every now and then. Then comes the word called analysis, the step which we'll be discussing subsequently. Futuring is a field of using a systematic process for thinking about the picturing possible outcomes and definitely planning for the future. Futurists are the people who actively view the present world as a window on possible future outcome. They watch the trends. They try to envision what might actually happen. Futuring is a broad concept than the forecasting traditionally done. In workforce planning, remember SWP, strategic workforce planning, enables the organization to look in the future in 10 different ways if possible. But I am going to enlist only the futuristic 4 different ways that is done. The possible future, the plausible future, and the probable future. Probably what I want is my preferred future. So we have a possible future, the plausible future, the probable future, and my best one is the preferred future, which the future outcomes actually has been 12 and comes the way that I wanted it to be altogether. So possible future is what could happen. It could go any way around the corner. It can come your way, it can go against your way. Plausible future, what could be realistically happen? Let us be possibly be realistic. Oh, there are certain limitations beyond which we will not be able to move around it. The probable features, what is likely to happen is with the advent of technology, with the advent of the change in environments, what can actually happen. The preferred features, what we want to happen is about ourselves. It is my preferred features about having the future in our pocket as far as the organization is concerned. So futuring is an excellent concept, but broader in the process, about future traditionally done in workforce planning, as the case might be. The forecasting HR demand. Yeah, difficult to do about it. Definitely, yes. But yes, with the help of the past data and the present requirement, we can prolong it or elongate it or probably draw a trend line as to what will be actually happening in the future. So we can talk about the number of employees, the type of employees, the skill requirement of this employee, consider the assess and challenges, the constraint thereby, preferred scanning tools. What is the scanning tool? What if analysis is what we are looking into it. What if this goes our way? What if this goes against our way? And so on and so forth. So that is your what if analysis that comes around it. Let us come to the measuring current supply, assessing the current HR capacity of the organization by means of skill inventory, by means of audit methods, the knowledge, the skills, the ability of your current staff needs to be identified. The KSA has to be accounted for. You need to have a repository of your skills and abilities, employee experience, education, and special skills as the case might be. Certificate or additional training should be included. A forecast in the supply of employees projected to join the organization from outside sources. HRM indicators, metrics, and indices are being mentioned as far as the turnover rates are concerned thereby. Let us move to the next step of analyzing. We have done scanning, we have done profiling, we now move to the analyzing part about it. Now is the case of analyzing or minding the gap. If you need to go about by the pick, mind the gap. The gap analysis template. It is your current state of affairs in your department. Where do you want it to your department in the first place? Is there a gap between where you are and where you want it to be? If so, please devise something to close the gap. Please do something about the gap. After the gap analysis, choose a framework that help organize your plans. Develop a framework with goals, measures, and projects identified in the gap analysis. Plan. Put your plan to your action. Track your progress thereby. And this is what we are looking into it. Just planning is not enough. You have to implement your plans. You have to enact upon it. You need to see that your plan sees the light of the day. If there are impediments, if there are any difficulties in the implementation, iron out those issues, remove those anomalies, and ensure that there are no gaps present between where you are and what you want to be. And if there are no gap present, you are just doing about fine. Let us go. The static process is all about developing. Now, this is strategic HRM action plan. You need to develop and initiate resourcing strategy, matching the strategies, interventions with scenario, surplus or deficit. Let us talk about the action plan based on implementation methodology as the case might be. Yes, we should go about the action plan thereby. We should ensure there are other resourcing strategies that is in places at times everywhere and everybody should be aware of it. Let us look forward to the action plan based on implementation methodology. Now we come to the penultimate steps of step number five, before we come to the C part of controlling. Now I is all about implementation. I is all about intervention. Now, what are the five HR strategies that meet your organization need? Number one is restructuring strategy. If you are doing something right, if you are doing something wrong, if you want to be in a different state of affairs despite doing right or wrong, you need to restructure your strategy. Training and development strategies as to upgrade, upskill yourself. Recruitment strategies as to have a new blood in the organization or upgrade, give more responsibility to the existing workforce. Outsource strategies, collaboration strategies, HR action plan, as the case might be. What are we looking at it? Is it the right fashion to go about it? We come to step number six, is all about controlling. Tracking implementation progress, monitoring, measuring, evaluating, and reporting, as the case might be. You need to track those progress every now and then. We need to monitor, we need to measure, we need to evaluate, and probably we need to report it as we go about it. And you should report it factually. You should not concatenate data for the sake of uh, portraying a positive picture. Please don't do so. So that will alternatively alter the course of action altogether, and it will not serve the purpose. Controlling is all about monitoring and reflecting what is happening. Probably what can be measured can be manage too. So recruitment process, essentially the last slide for this presentation is defining the role, the job analysis. Be specific with your job specification and the job description. Specification will tell you the attributes of the person that you are looking for. Description will tell you what is the job all about it, what are the various activities involved in the job. Now with a chance of attracting application. Recruitment methods can be internal, can be external, can be variety, can be a mix of both. So we have to speak about EVP, employee value proposition. What is it that should make your organization very attractive for the employee? Managing the applications and the selection process thereby, and probably going up with the appointments of the job incumbents. With this, I come to an end of this presentation. I am sure that most of you have understood how to design and implement business-centric talent management. Thank you once again for watching this video.